Olympics fever with property. Good, bad, ugly, fantastic. We're going to measure some of the last Olympics that have happened and how that's affected property prices and bring it to you. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Boom! Olympics is finished.
What was your favorite Olympic moment?
My favourite Olympic moment was the women's weightlifting over 84 kilograms.
Interesting. Very
It
interesting.
was
I didn't watch much of it.
massive. Like, it was just, I was in shock and awe the whole time. What was yours?
I didn't watch much of it. Probably just the athletics. Watching the world records get broke. I always find that fascinating.
Yeah, right. Yeah, world records is just, it staggers me so many can be broken. But I saw a metric. Half of the world's population have watched the Olympics in some way, shape, or form, and that is a lot of exposure for anything. What's that?
Yeah.
4 billion. 4 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
People staring at it. But the closing ceremony, I watched it. I went back on it. Went for 4 hours. I had to fast forward a fair bit, but I went back on it. It's going to be in California. Then 4 years later, it's going to be in Brisbane. It was a long show, but some pretty cool pieces out of it. What a whirlwind! What a production! What a production! How does that affect property prices? One must wonder.
Well, you know what it does? It's got people's attention. That is the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's property, whether it's anything, it's got people's attention. And I guess if you can stick someone on a couch for 4 hours and fly around, different parts of Paris and different parts of France, and show your beautiful country, you're setting yourself up for a beautiful tour.
It did look beautiful. Like seeing those skies, the landscapes, the buildings in Paris. I was like, yeah, cool. It's a
Yeah,
positive affirmation for something, um, and something that you and I were having a bit of a chat about, Billy, was that I think it comes down to sentiment. A big metric in property that's a impossible measure is sentiment. It's probably the biggest measure if you get a feel on it. But how people feel about a place, a country. If they are scared, they run. If they are inspired, they are attracted. I think as part of the information we put together today, we looked at 2000 when Sydney had the Olympics, the aftermath in the property market and the prior, in the property market. But if you think about it, it's sort of like 8 years before that these countries start prepping and probably start benefiting from the Olympics coming. So, what did you say they'd spent on in France for the Olympics?
8.3 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not a cheap setup, but
No.
you look
US
at,
dollars.
and that's why I refreshed the screen for a sec there. You lost me. If I go back, I'll do the same. But these guys were upgrading transport links. They were upgrading commercial, retail, residential, shopping spaces and things like that. They were
Security.
security, transport, health. Everything has got to be sort of uplifted when it comes to big games like that. And not all of it gets taken home either, right? A lot of people benefit from that years on down the track as well. You look at Sydney
Well,
as an example. We've
yeah.
got beautiful stadiums off the back of it.
20 years later,
Yeah, yeah.
we're
And for
still enjoying
Sydney,
our venues more than ever.
you could say it was just coincidence that property values doubled in the before to the after, or you could
Did
say
they?
no, it was there was contributing factor. And so in the build up to in the late 90s, property values were sitting about 220 to 300 median house price. and then on the back of the Olympics, it was sitting between 500 and 600,000. Late
Yeah, right.
2000, 2003. Yeah, so that's
You
pretty
can't
good
say
for
it's
it.
not somewhat related.
It's got to be, whether it's just all the infrastructure or whether
Yeah,
it's, people moving, saying, I really enjoyed that. I want to be
yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's got to be.
So it's a big yes from us.
Yeah, it's got to be. And are you hearing people talk about Brisbane 2032?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a long time away, and people are excited about it. People, things have started in Brisbane, to get the infrastructure in tune and ready for an onslaught of people and the Olympics. It only goes for a couple of weeks. I get that, but it's a hell of a lot of people coming in. I think when you have that positive when you have exposure, number one, never mind the experience, but the exposure, a lot of people around the world like Sydney, and then now they're going Brisbane, and they're
Yeah.
researching and they're coming out. So I think when that Olympics is approaching and when it's gone, it's on the map. It's on the map. If you put someone on television for 5 seconds, everyone knows that person. So I think that as an Olympic, like everyone's going to know the state and the city well. They're going to feel comfortable with it. They're going to have a positive affirmation with it. And I think the property value is going to do well. Would I take my money as a Sydney person and say on the back of the Olympics, I'm going to put my money into Brizzy? Hand on my heart, and I don't like to say it, but probably not. I believe your investments, one, there's the performance side of things. Two, there's that familiarity side of things where you're doing repairs, maintenance, rentals, buying, selling, buying another one, valuations. I like buying under my nose, to be honest. What about you?
Well, if you're asking me, would I buy in Paris because they've just had an Olympics from 2017, their prices have done 22%, which sounds good, but you take like a Northern Beaches average and you split it over 7 years. It's maybe consistent, but it's slow by beaches standards. I think if you were ever going to plan a move up to Brisbane and you wanted something that was, going to have a lot of things going on around it, yeah, timing wise, it's great, isn't it? You might be making a 10-year retirement plan and going, Brisbane's not bad compared to Perth because they're going to
It's
get
just
all these
another
things.
tick.
It's
Yeah,
just another
yeah,
tick, but do you bank on it? Yeah, not sure. Doesn't change
yeah.
things.
Interesting. So I think from what we're saying today, it's a winner, property wise. I'm surprised to hear the differences between the Sydney Olympics property growth and the Paris. Oh, we're not all the way through that property growth, by the way. So say Paris got 22% and it'll go to 50% if it takes that same rate of flow. I think it's good. I think it's good. But equally, our expectation, the last 50, 100 years in Sydney is the property values will double every 7 to 10 years. That's been, when you take an average and a yardstick, that's been the average. I think that, yeah, it's not a bad thing to do. Not a bad thing to do at all. Anything else you want to report on Olympics fever, good or bad for
The,
property values?
the people are saying there is an Olympic effect. The Olympic effect is a real thing.
Yeah, agree.
Agree. I agree. Facts. The facts are there.
I agree. And look, as real estate agents witnessing, and I worked through, I was in real estate and worked through the property market in 2000 for Sydney. Um, Real fact, good.
It's there.
But would I change my appetite from Sydney to a different Olympic state, something like Brisbane, on the back of an Olympics? Probably not. Probably
Yeah.
not. But I think the infrastructure that's left behind is quite phenomenal. But we do have that legacy structure in Sydney anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like we've got pretty much that blueprint for an Olympic city we've achieved. So I think we're getting the benefits from that still.
Just remember, supply is the enemy of capital growth.
Can you say that 3 times in a row?
I'll say it one more time for you. Supply is the enemy of capital growth. Just remember that. Wherever wherever you look, there might be a beautiful big train station or a stadium or an athletics park or a swimming pool going in. But if there can be multiple, multiple influxes of new stock, it will always slow your capital growth, no matter what.
So still got to look at that measure. I do have to say, Sydney's supply has always been a shocker, and that has always contributed to capital growth, always. And I am surprised with other states the amount of oversupply or supply or lots of supply they get, and it goes back to the planning controls of the city. Sydney doesn't like to loosen up those planning controls, so I think on the back of that, we're going to go out on that one, Billy, for 2024 quote of the year. What is it again?
Supply is the enemy of capital growth. Have a great day. Happy Tuesday.
Love it. See ya. Bye.